Hello everyone, Vincent Teo from HDTV Test here. I'm a TV reviewer and professional calibrator. So finally, this is the first QLED TV reviewed on this channel in December 2017, a good 8 months after launch, and after we've reviewed countless OLED TVs. This is the Samsung QE49Q7F, a 49-inch screen with quantum dot technology. There's also a Q7C, which is curved and slightly more expensive. Now, before we start, let me clarify something about the current state of QLED TV. As I've explained before in my CES video, originally the term QLED refers to true self-emissive technology just like OLED. But Samsung has this year expanded the definition to include any display with quantum dot technology, and all current Samsung QLED TVs are basically LED LCDs with quantum dot enhancement film, which is not that different from the SUHD range from 2015 and 2016. Design-wise, I think the Samsung Q7F is a good-looking set. The bezel is impressively slim for an LED LCD display, and there's a classy brushed metallic silver trim encasing the panel. The anti-reflective filter on the front of the screen is one of the most effective on the market, making this TV particularly good for watching in daytime or with the lights on. The panel sits on a sturdy metal stand with a lovely matte chrome finish and cylindrical feet, and the overall craftsmanship and build quality is first class. Like recent Samsung TVs, the connections are farmed out to an external box, but on the 2017 QLEDs, the One Connect box has grown bigger and now requires its own power cable. There are 4 HDMI ports, and unlike many other TV brands this year, all 4 are compatible with HDMI 2.0B for HDR and HLG support at higher frame rate and bit depth, as well as HDCP 2.2 copy protection. Let's move on to some technical analysis. The Samsung Q7F uses a VA-type LCD panel with true RGB subpixel configuration, which delivers a measured black level of 0.043 candelas per meter squared on a 4x4 ANSI checkerbox test pattern, once peak white was aligned to our normal darkroom target of 120 nits. The TV is an H-lit LED LCD TV, and as you can see from this thermal scan, the LED modules are found exclusively along the bottom border of the screen. Using our custom-ordered test pattern consisting a small white box crawling horizontally and then vertically against the edges of a black background, we counted 12 vertical columns of separately dimmable zones, each spanning the entire height of the screen. The dimming algorithm on the Samsung Q7F prefers to minimize blooming by gently illuminating the screen rather than switching off the unused LEDs totally, which will create a very harsh transition from the brighter parts to the darker parts of the picture, thus exaggerating haloing or blooming artifacts, which will run from the top to the bottom of the screen. I think this is a very sensible decision by Samsung's TV engineers, but it does mean that you should watch the Samsung 49-inch Q7F with some lights on to deepen the perceived blacks and reduce visible blooming. Other decisions by Samsung's engineering team are more questionable. First is the brightness control. On other TVs, including the company's 2015 and 2016 sets, increasing the brightness value will expose the below black detail, which is not desirable, but at least what we calibrators and video enthusiasts can do is to increase the brightness control and then slowly decrease it until the video black flashing bar or box is indeed invisible, allowing us to set the digital black floor of the TV correctly. On Samsung 2017 sets, including this Q7F, the brightness control actually adjusts near black gamma. So even if you go up to +5 on a black clipping pattern, 16 will be invisible and 17 will still be visible, which is still technically correct, but will brighten the darker end unnecessarily. Needless to say, the Q7F clips blacker than black data. The other problem I have with Samsung's picture design is the introduction of ABL or automatic brightness limiter on their 2017 QLED TVs. Yes, in some picture modes and with the wrong local dimming settings, the screen will actually dim down as the image gets brighter, just like what happens on self-emissive displays like OLED, plasma and CRT TVs. But the thing is, the Samsung Q7F is a transmissive display and needn't be subjected to this type of restriction at all. Plasma and OLED owners are constantly asking manufacturers to lower or get rid of ABL. Yet here, Samsung is implementing ABL when it's actually not needed at all. Their engineers tell me it's to promote eye comfort, prevent customers from squinting when the picture becomes brighter. But in my opinion, it's removing one of the great strengths of LED LCDs so that it can still look bright enough for daytime use. Fortunately, this ABL can be completely avoided in the correct picture mode and with the correct settings. Okay, enough ranting from me. Let's talk about colors. Samsung has partnered with Portrait Displays, the developer of the Kalman calibration software that we and most other calibrators use to implement auto calibration and DDC, that's direct display control, on the QLED TVs including this 49-inch Q7F. Now, I like DDC because it allows me to make adjustments on the TV without using the on-screen menu, which can affect measurements. However, I didn't really find the results of the auto calibration to be very good. In theory, it sounds very simple. One click of the button on your laptop and the software and the TV will enter a feedback loop to eventually arrive at reference level grayscale and colors. But in practice, there can be too big a jump from one interval to the next. For example, -50 green on one interval and then +50 green on the next, causing polarization in that specific part of the image. I still like to do it the old school way, adjusting manually. Give it a professional, loving touch. For SDR, the colors are very accurate after calibration, with none out of the 140 measured patches in this fairly challenging color checker SG chart exceeding the perceptible threshold of delta error 3. SDR content looked very realistic and natural. And although in a pitch black room, the top and bottom letterbox bars are not really inky black because of how the screen is illuminated by bottom-mounted LEDs, put some gentle bias lighting on and you won't even see this issue at all. Upscaling quality is very good, but standard definition content such as this SMPT RP133 test pattern in 576i can look slightly soft because this TV doesn't allow for overscan to be disabled at this SD resolution. If you spend this much money on a 4K TV, hopefully you'll be watching mostly HD or UHD material, not SD. Moving on to motion, this Samsung QE49Q7F is one of the rare 49-inch TVs that feature a native 120Hz panel, which is important for two reasons. One, if you have a 120Hz panel, 5.5 pull-down can be applied so panning shots in 24 frames per second films can look smooth without telecinic judder, and that's certainly the case here. 2. A 120Hz panel also opens up the possibility for interpolation and black frame insertion to increase motion resolution. This TV is capable of reaching 1080 lines of motion resolution on this test pattern if you engage Auto Motion Plus, and you can also activate black frame insertion or BFI by turning on LED clear motion. Samsung BFI implementation generally introduces less flicker than other TV brands, so you can get high motion clarity without soap opera effect or interpolation artifacts. So, I've covered contrast, I've covered colors, I've covered upscaling, I've covered motion. Let's discuss HDR. This Q7F is Ultra HD Premium certified. We measured color gamut to be 98% of DCI P3 and peak brightness to be 1350 nits on a 10% window, which can be sustained for longer periods than last year's SUHD TVs. But outside of test patterns, peak brightness in real-life content such as 4K Blu-rays will be lower, probably not more than 900 or 1000 nits. This is because on a test pattern, the TV can drive the peak brightness as high as possible by lighting up the central column of zones without caring about blooming or haloing artifacts. But in real-life content, there are other things going on in the scene, and the TV has to juggle between going for the highest peak brightness and maintaining reasonably deep blacks and minimizing blooming, all within its constraints of 12 vertical dimming zones. Let's say there's a bright sun on this column here that is meant to be 1300 nits, but there are other surrounding elements, let's say a darker planet here, some stars or the galaxy somewhere around here, and the TV has to balance all these things out. That's why self-emissive displays like OLED, where every single pixel can be switched on and off independently of each other, and full array local dimming LED LCDs, where there are more zones that can be controlled separately, give a better HDR experience. And the rumor is that Samsung will launch a number of full array local dimming or FALD QLED TVs next year. Otherwise, Samsung's philosophy to HDR tone mapping is to retain all specular highlight detail, even if it means the image will look darker, which is the opposite of Sony's philosophy. In this scene from Pacific Rim, the Samsung Q7F will preserve all the bright detail in the cloud, but the scene will appear slightly darker. There's no right and wrong to HDR tone mapping because there's just no official standard out there. I'm just telling you that Samsung TVs in general are very good at retaining all the specular highlight details. Slow panning shots in 4K Blu-rays came across buttery smooth, but like last year's KS series, there's more posterization visible than other TV brands in uniform tones, such as the sky in The Martian. Dark scenes in HDR movies looked more washed out than OLED or high-end full array local dimming LED LCDs, but that's to be expected because the TV's backlight has to be driven to the maximum value to meet the peak brightness demands of HDR. On the bright side, colors in bright scenes really do pop because of quantum dot and higher color volume. For example, the flames in Horizon Zero Dawn. Which brings us to gaming. Input lag is the lowest we've measured in 2017, around 19 milliseconds in both 1080p SDR and 4K HDR modes, which is marginally quicker than LG's 2017 OLEDs. And unlike many other VA-based LED LCD TVs, there's very little smearing in dark scenes. Not being an emissive display, the Samsung Q7F will pose zero risk of image retention or permanent screen burn, even if you play video games with static HUD for prolonged periods. In summary, the Samsung QE49Q7F is one of the best sub-50-inch TVs you can buy new today, given that OLED TVs don't come smaller than 55 inches. It's got a 120Hz panel, great colors, great motion, and a very low input lag. Although for the best viewing experience, you shouldn't really be watching it in a pitch-black room. And given the class-leading anti-reflective filter on this TV, putting on some ambient lighting is always good. Now that prices have come down in general on all the QLED TVs, it makes this Samsung Q7F a more attractive proposition. If you found this video useful, please click the like button and subscribe to the HDTV Test YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.